Have you ever heard soldiers refer to a place simply as the grave? Not officially, not on maps or in documents. Just among ourselves. Because every time we went in, not all of us came back. That's what Second Platoon called a small town nestled deep in a valley. Fortified, dangerous, truly hostile. It was home to those who knew the terrain intimately, who used every turn, every alley, every rooftop to their advantage. We tried to take it more than once, and every time it ended the same. We'd have to pull back, temporarily. Because after every attempt, the retaliation would begin. Mines, ambushes, mortar fire. They always came back. It was in that place that I became something I wasn't before. Field medicine isn't about textbook. It's fighting against time, not just the enemy. It's about keeping your head, helping your people, even when everything around you is chaos. I lost friends there. I tried to hold on to them, to help, to be fast enough. That's also where the dreams started. The ones that are hard to shake. That day started like any other. Command was tired of the back-and-forth game. The order was clear. Secure that zone completely. We were in our 11th month of deployment. Rotation was just around the corner. We had to clean it out so the guys relieving us wouldn't walk into the same trap. The city had once been large. Hundreds of thousands of people. Streets, shops, kids on bicycle. Now, nearly abandoned. Those who could had fled. Those who stayed were either hiding or fighting. The outskirts were in ruins. But the center, still intact. That's where we needed to break through. Alpha Company was taking the north. We were assigned to in the west. The remaining sectors were open terrain, like walking through a minefield. We rolled out. 6 heavy vehicles loaded to the max. Weapons, gear, troops. Quiet. Focused. The closer we got to the edge of the city, the heavier the silence became. It felt like the air itself had changed. Denser. Pressing. I looked out the window of the vehicle, trying to picture what this neighborhood used to be like. Before all this. Before the rubble, before the empty streets. Probably just a normal place. People living, laughing, working. Now, wiped clean. Reality snapped back with a sharp shout over the radio. Contact! Push forward. Watch the rooftops. Instantly, we began firing at potential firing positions. The vehicles didn't stop. Explosions erupted on both sides. Bursts of gunfire cracked around us. The vehicle shuddered like it was alive and understood what was happening. The driver tried to maneuver, but in those tight streets, with poor visibility, he misjudged. We crashed into the rubble. The wheels spun, but we were stuck. No way forward. Behind us, the rest of the convoy kept moving. If we stayed, we risked being cut off. Then, a direct hit. A charge slammed into the turret. Fortunately, the system held. An external hit, a deep, thudding sound. The gunner fell back inside. He was injured, not critical, but serious. I immediately began treatment. Everything I could do, I did fast. He held on. Even wounded, he returned to his position. That guy's forged from iron. There aren't many like him. The vehicle finally breaks free. We're back in formation. And soon, we're arriving at the rally point. They're waiting for us. The other platoons are already in position. The fight is underway. A lieutenant meets us. His face says it all. The situation is tense. Artillery prep did almost nothing. Everything's still there. We'll have to do it the hard way. He hands out assignments. I'm going in with the guys from Killer. These are the ones who always go first. The ones who don't ask too many questions. The ones who never forget their own and never forgive the enemy. Real fighters. We check our gear. We're nervous, but silent. One of the guys I helped recently walks up to me. You all right? I ask. Yeah, manageable. I'm ready, he replies. We move out. The signal. First push. Another battle begins. And once again, I'm in the role of the one who walks alongside, hand on the med kit, hoping it'll be needed as little as possible. When you fight alongside the guys from Killer, you learn quickly. There's no such thing as an easy walk. These are the men who move first into what is essentially the unknown, where every corner could be your last. The commander of Killer always believed that a 1-2-3 countdown was useless. He'd yell, "On 3," and charge on 2. It pissed us off, but it worked. It left no time for fear. This time was no different. We charged forward right behind him. The shooting started almost immediately. Somewhere behind the rubble, an enemy machine gun opened up. One of ours tossed a grenade toward the building. A deep thud, then kwai. Quiet. We moved fast. Sprint, cover, check in, move. Within a minute, we were under fire again. One of the guys shouted, "Straight ahead!" The platoon scattered, each finding cover. A machine gunner hit the dirt and opened fire on a partially collapsed building. We dashed forward at the commander's signal, took cover behind a house. The killer team went wide, trying to flank them. Then, silence. But only for a moment. Several fighters burst out of the building and opened fire on our men. We managed to get behind cover, returned fire. It all lasted just seconds. I neutralized one of the attackers, the rest were dropped by our team. The killer guys gave the signal to push forward. The sound of battle ahead grew louder. Alpha Company was already tearing into the center. We advanced through streets that had once been residential. I was bringing up the rear. That's when I saw something I'll never forget. A woman lay on the ground. Next to her, a boy dead, maybe 5 years old. He was tugging at her sleeve, not understanding what was happening. Something twisted inside me. I ran over, picked him up, and carried him into the nearest building. "Stay here. Don't come out, understand?" I tried to explain with hand gestures. He didn't answer, just stared, eyes tired, hollow, covered in dust. He had clearly seen far too much for someone that young. I left him there. Orders are orders. But my heart, it stayed with him. When I got back, the commander gave me a harsh reprimand. "What the hell are you doing? There was a child. That's not your job. I just don't want to see another kid who doesn't make it through the day." "Move out," he snapped, and we kept going. I moved, but my mind stayed on that boy. Then, the attack began. From a rooftop, an anti-tank round fired. It hit the adjacent building, collapsing part of the wall. We scattered. Dust, debris. The sound rang in our ears like concrete pressed against the drums. "Take out the shooter!" someone shouted. Return fire followed, and seconds later, confirmation, target neutralized. "Everyone okay?" I yelled, scanning the area. The reply came, "We need help." I ran. One of the guys was pinned under rubble. They were trying to free him. He was conscious, talking, but seriously stuck. I helped clear part of the debris and realized he had a serious leg injury. The situation was tough, but not critical. The key was to stabilize him and get him to medics fast. "Hang on, you're okay." "We got this. You're gonna be fine." He nodded. His face was pale, but his eyes were calm. He trusted us. I followed protocol, checked his vitals, and with the help of the others, we moved him to cover. On the way back to the rally point, sporadic gunfire echoed around us. Enemy activity in the area was dying down, which meant their main forces had already pulled back toward the central objective. We got the wounded out and handed him off. The lieutenant came over. "Good work. Get ready. We're moving forward." I sat down against a wall. It felt like all the weight in my body had been lifted. I just wanted to sit and not move. But then, the call came. "Lifeline, get ready. We're going back in." A deep breath, roll call. And then the march again. Further in, toward the roar that never stopped. When we returned to the front, the fight was in full swing. The roar was so loud it felt like the earth itself was shaking. The enemy's stronghold was in a densely built-up area. Narrow alleys, uneven walls, exposed intersections. A real labyrinth where every mistake could be your last. Our guys from Killer and Alpha Company had already taken positions in one of the buildings overlooking the center of the enemy fortification. They were laying down heavy fire, suppressing any attempt by the enemy to break out or regroup. Meanwhile, other platoons began to close the perimeter. We were being pulled into a tight urban battle, step by step, building by building. I took up position with the rest of my squad. We sheltered behind a half-destroyed wall with a view of the central square. The firefight came in waves. Quiet, then a sudden burst, then silence again. It drains you. The constant tension, your body locked tight. Like everyone else, I fired my weapon. I had 3 confirmed hits that day. I never felt proud of it. I just did what I had to do. Because if it's not you, it's you. "Medic!" suddenly came over the radio. I sprinted toward the building the call had come from. The killer guys were there. One of their men had taken a serious hit. He had been pulled out of the fight, and now it all depended on how fast I could act. I did everything I could. Halted the deterioration, stabilized him. It was clear. This soldier wouldn't return to battle, but he was holding on. And most importantly, he was alive. I hadn't even finished when I heard it again. "Medic, over here." I ran in the other direction. One of the soldiers was clutching his leg. Shrapnel had hit him in the thigh. The wound looked bad, but not life-threatening. I quickly treated the area, wrapped it, checked his overall state, and helped him back to the others. And that's when I heard that sound, the kind you never mistake. A faint ting, ting, ting. I whipped my head around. A grenade. Everything inside me clenched. Time froze. I shoved the soldier around the corner and lunged forward, grabbed it, and without thinking, hurled it back toward the street. In moments like that, you don't think. Instinct takes over. I hit the ground. The blast went off farther away. The shockwave slammed my ears, knocked the air from my lungs. I pushed myself up, vision speed happening. Someone rushed over, grabbed me, dragged me into cover. A muffled voice reached me. "Doc." "Hey, wake up." They slapped my face, rough but effective. I snapped back, quickly checked myself. All good. My uniform was torn to shreds, but I was intact. "I'm good. I'm fine," I shouted so everyone could hear. "Lifeline, listen closely. Alpha Company is calling for support. Their medic is pinned. You're going. Now," the commander said. There wasn't a second to lose. We bolted forward. An exposed street. Short dashes, cover to cover. Bullets whizzed by, but we made it. A sergeant from Alpha Company's 3rd Platoon met us. "Here." 2 wounded. The first soldier had a back injury. Someone had tried first aid, but it wasn't quite right. I adjusted the bandage, ensured he was stable. He came to, started talking. "A good sign." The second had lost part of his leg. A field dressing was already in place. I reinforced everything, secured and cleaned it. He wasn't responding, so I didn't hesitate. I tried to snap him back. It worked. He groaned. I immediately administered a sedative to reduce the shock. "Done. They're alive," I shouted. All of this was happening literally under fire. Bullets struck the walls. Explosions rumbled nearby. But you get used to it. In your head, silence, only actions. Clear. Step by step. If there's a chance to save, you must do it. We kept supporting the fight, and then what we had been waiting for began. The enemy started to retreat. One by one, they abandoned their positions. Some tried to slip away, others dashed, thinking they'd make it. But we had guys on every corner. We says, exits. And in that moment, the feeling came. We had taken that damn district. Maybe not for long, maybe they'd come back. But on that day, in that hour, it was our tour. After the final shots faded, we regrouped at a temporary position. The lieutenant ran a head count, checked who was where, who was still in action, who had been pulled out. Then came that strange silence after battle, when the sounds still ring in your ears, but you already know. For now, you're alive. "Doc, come here," the commander said. I got up and walked over. He put an arm around my shoulder and turned to the others. "Listen up, boys. This guy came to us green, fresh out of school. We thought he'd be a problem, but he kept pulling us out again and again. He looked me in the eyes and added, 'You didn't just earn our respect. You became one of us.' The guys nodded silently. Some shook my hand, others patted my shoulder. Moments like that, you can't describe them. It's not about medals, not about rank. It's about when the ones you've been through everything with trust you to the very end. I sat down by a wall, just dropped down and lowered my head. My whole body was covered in dust, my face streaked with soot, exhaustion, sleeplessness, tension. Uniform torn, hands shaking, but inside, calm. We did what we had to do. That night, when we got back to base, I took off my vest and pulled out the photos from the inner pocket. They were of our guys, the ones who didn't make it back. I laid them out next to my bed, like I always did. And softly, barely audible, like they could still hear, I said, "I'm sorry. I tried. I really tried." Then I lay down, closed my eyes. In my mind, faces, voices, streets, that little boy, that moment when it could have all ended. But I knew they would have done the same for me. I was later given awards for that operation. Metal tokens placed in velvet boxes, and every time someone asked, You're a hero, right? I always gave the same answer. I'm not a hero. I just did what I had to. But the ones we lost, they were the real heroes. I'm telling this story not for glory, but so no one forgets that behind peace and safety, there's always someone who once chose to step forward when everyone else stood still. Someone who walked in knowing they might not walk out, and still went. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story spoke to you, if you value truth without polish, told in the first person, support the channel with a subscription. Here, we talk about the real stuff, about what often stays off camera. Subscribe so you don't miss the next stories. And thank you for being here with me.